Welcome to lesson number 2 of our beginner course, absolute beginner course. Today we're going to learn another chord which is called E major, okay? It's a very simple shape, it's very similar to the one you learned before. But before we start doing this, let's talk about some kind of the problems you might have right now. Did you notice that when you play on the guitar, your fingers are really in pain, like you feel the pain after a while? And unfortunately, this is one of the things that you can't run away from. It'll go away after a few weeks, but there are a few things that you may kind of consider to kind of make it work for you, okay? The first thing, when you pick up the guitar, okay, make sure that you didn't have a shower, anything like this, or you didn't wash your hands, or maybe you didn't wash your dishes, okay? Or if you did, make sure there is a kind of break in between, like 20-30 minutes. Let the skin, dry, because if you pick up the guitar instantly, you may really rip off your skin because it's very soft from the water, okay? So make sure that your hands are dry. Sometimes your guitar may have quite high action. By action, I mean that the distance from the string to the fretboard is quite high. So it means that you have to kind of press this very hard, in a very hard way, okay? One of the ways to solve this issue is take the guitar to the luthier, and he can adjust this guitar. Here is in my guitar, there is an adjustment rod. Actually, normally it's here, but my guitar has got adjustment rod here. So there is kind of adjustment rod that if you adjust this, you may change the shape of the neck, make it a bit flatter. So it means that the strings will get closer. It will be easier to play the chords, okay? So this is another thing that you may consider. Also, if it's really hard on your guitar, you may change the strings and put lighter strings, so thinner strings, less tension, it will be easier to play, okay? So these are a few tips that you may kind of, you may try to do to kind of solve this issue of the pain in your fingers, okay? One very kind of bizarre idea is to dip your fingers in a surgical spirit, okay? This is what the people who dance ballet, this is what they do. They put this on toes to kind of heal the skin quicker, but also it works like a painkiller. If I have a moment when I'm preparing for the session or for the gig and I have to play a lot of chords, and a lot of songs, like I have to practice, let's say, for 5 hours or 6 hours, 7 hours every day, my fingers are in pain. I dip them into surgical spirit and it kind of make them numb, okay? So I can actually play longer. It's kind of weird concept, but this is just another idea, okay? Great. So look, before we start again playing the guitar, make sure that you remember the chord from the previous lesson, and make sure that you remember the name of the chord, because if you don't remember the chords and you want to learn some song, you have to always refer to the internet or find the chords, in the book. It's a waste of time, okay? So make this a habit that you play the chords and you remember the name. So one of the ideas will be to, for instance, with A minor chord, to find the chord, strum this chord, and say A minor. Relax your hand, find the chord, and say A minor. Saying aloud, we kind of reinforce this knowledge in your head. Okay, so play the chord, A minor, and again play the chord and A minor. Okay, so this is one way to memorize the names of the chords. Now look, let's try to learn our second chord, which is called E major. The good thing is, this is identical shape to the A minor chord. You can check the shape on my website, guitarcouch.com. It's almost identical chord to the A minor. What we are going to do, we are going to take this shape and we bring everything up one string, literally. So the first finger is going from the first fret second string to the first fret third string, yeah? And then the second finger is going from the second fret fourth string to second fret fifth string. And third finger from the second fret third string to the second fret fourth string. So all this shape is going up. And this is how it sounds, okay? Now look. Obviously, if you are new to guitar, it may take you a bit of time to move these fingers, yeah? From one position to the next one. And remember, this is absolutely normal. Things like this takes time, okay? So don't expect that you'll be very quick with this, okay? If you are struggling with this is normal. Everybody was struggling at the beginning, when they started to play the guitar, okay? They just don't want to admit sometimes. All right, so look, A minor, E major. One of the ways to move between these two chords will be to divide this motion into two. So for instance, at first I'm going to move fingers 2 and 3 up, and then my first finger is going to join the rest of these fingers. Does it make sense? So instead of moving all of this chord, all of these fingers at the same time, I just move these two, and then this one is joining the chord. Does it make sense? So look, A minor, and then E major. These two up, and then this one. And I've got E major chord. And this chord is a bit different, because in this chord we are going to play the 6th string actually. So we strum all 6 strings. But as I said before, if you hit on the A minor chord by accident, the 6th string, it's fine. For now, just remember that this note does not belong to the chord. So look, A minor and then E major. These are cool sounding chords. And by the way, can you hear it? Look. Do you know this melody? These two chords, this is the beginning to Hotel California, so by the Eagles. So by knowing these two chords, you'll be able to play first two chords from Hotel California. Okay, so by learning these simple shapes like, you know, A minor, E major, and then some other chords, really at some point you'll be able to play all of these famous songs, because the songs, they consist of the chords. They just sometimes they are put in different order, and they are played longer, shorter, you know. So this is a great thing that, you know, that you kind of use the simple shapes and you'll be able to play very cool songs. Okay, so look, one more time. Let's try to practice changing between A minor and then E major. Yeah, so A minor and then E major. And again, A minor and then E major. Now look, when it comes to strumming with your hand, make sure that you don't strum in a hard way like this, okay? I allow my pick to slightly move between my fingers, okay? So it's kind of softer sound. Does it make sense? So don't play too hard. Okay, so you can go A minor and then E major, A minor, E major. And now look, when I'm strumming, can you see my hand? My hand is resting here at the top of the guitar, and I push this arm from the elbow. So it's not like from the wrist like this, it's coming from the elbow. And to be honest, it's a combination of both. It's kind of very natural movement, look. Can you see this hand is so relaxed? And now I just strum in a relaxed way, okay? So I push this from the elbow, but the rest of the job does the wrist at the end. Can you see? And when I got to the first string, I don't stop here. I kind of go even lower like this. Does it make sense? So this is the way to strum this. So look, A minor, and then you may try to change to E major. And one more time, very slowly, A minor. So on the way back to go to A minor, I would move this finger down and this to down. And then E major. When you learn this chord, try to kind of create mental picture. Every chord looks in a very specific way on the fretboard. So try to memorize this. Try to memorize these shapes, okay? And this is a good way of practicing the chords by trying to see this as a kind of like a picture on the neck. Okay, this is how I see the chords. Yeah, so changing between A minor and then E major. And one more time, A minor, E major. You may stop for a second, relax your hand. You know, remember we position the fingers from the very top like this. Yeah, not from here, to avoid muting strings. But if your strings are muted slightly, and you have your fingers positioned correctly, don't worry, because over the time you'll get better. Okay, you'll start to feel better this guitar. You have to kind of teach your hand how to feel the instrument. Okay, so at first it doesn't feel natural, of course, but after a while, when you position your fingers, you will know which finger is muting which string. Okay, so don't worry if something is not ringing properly because something is muted. It's fine. You'll get better. Remember, learning the guitar takes time, and if you put too much pressure on you, okay, you may quit too early. Okay, before you get really good on the instrument. So this is what you want to avoid. Okay, so in this lesson, what you want to do, you want to practice changing between A minor and then E major, A minor and E major, like this. Now look. Some of you may wonder what's the best way to start to play the guitar, to buy acoustic or electric guitar. Because, you know, for instance, maybe your intention is to play electric guitar, which is also great. From my experience, it's a little bit easier to learn on the acoustic guitar, okay, at the beginning. It's simply because this body of the guitar is a bit thicker, okay? And because of the size of the instrument, it's kind of, it's nicely integrated together with your body, okay? It's easy to position your hand here at the top of the instrument, and it kind of feels more natural. Let me show you actually how it looks when I pick up electric guitar. So look, let me take an electric guitar. And now look, if I switch my electric guitar, can you see? The body is much thinner, right? So some of the guitarists will try to kind of wrap this hand around like this, and this is when the potential problem is coming, because your hand may be not very efficient when it comes to strumming. So this is why electric guitar might be not a good idea at the beginning, okay? You would have to kind of force yourself to approach electric guitar exactly the same way like acoustic, kind of position your hand here. This is kind of shaped in some guitars to kind of it's sanded, so you can actually feel this better. And then strum, okay, from this position. So this is why electric guitar is not really probably the best place to go, okay? Now look, if you want to play metal music and rock music, the good news is that you can always buy, you know, electric guitar later on, and you can have both, right? So a lot of guitarists have two guitars, one acoustic, let's say Chiba acoustic, and then one electric guitar, right? So just because you started from the acoustic guitar doesn't mean that you can't play on electric in the future. It just, I think, when it comes to building the basics, it's just easier, you know, to position your hand, because it kind of sits naturally here at the top, and it's just easy to strum. Does it make sense? And also, you know, it's very easy to move around this instrument. If you want to go to your garden or somewhere, you can just take this with you, and you know, you're ready to go, okay? With electric guitar is very, very quiet when it comes to, you know, you have to amplify this, yeah? So you may not hear this properly outside, let's say, at the seaside or in the garden, okay? So this is one of the reasons also why it's good to start from the acoustic guitar. Okay, great. So practice your chord changes, going from A minor to E, slowly, don't rush, remember about the quality, and I'm going to see you in the lesson number 3. We're going to take the things a little bit further.